Welcome back to Haunted World, where we delve into the chilling and mysterious realms of true crime. Today, we're embarking on a journey through a case that is not only filled with unexpected twists, but also reveals the darker sides of human nature. This is the story of Sharon Marshall, a tale woven with secrets, betrayal, and tragedy that feels as if it were ripped straight from the pages of a suspenseful thriller. But rest assured, every detail is rooted in reality. Our story begins in 1975, when a young girl named Suzanne Marie Savakis was just around 5 or 6 years old. She had a mother, Sandra Sandy Chipman, and 3 siblings. At the time, her mother was struggling financially and made a decision that would ultimately change all of their lives forever. She married a man named Franklin Delano Floyd. Floyd presented himself as a caring stepfather, but in reality, he was a convicted criminal with a dark and violent past. He had already spent time in prison for a string of offenses, including sexual assault, attempted kidnapping, and bank robbery. But Sandra had no idea about the true nature of the man she had just married. Shortly after their marriage, Sandra was sentenced to 30 days in jail for writing bad checks. When she was released, she returned home, only to find that her children were gone. Franklin Delano Floyd had disappeared with all of them. Sandra was later able to recover 2 of her children, who had been left in foster care. But her eldest daughter, Suzanne, was never seen by her family again. Franklin had taken her, and from that moment on, he controlled every aspect of her life. For years, Suzanne lived under different names. The most well-known alias she was forced to use was Sharon Marshall. Floyd raised her as his own daughter, moving frequently to avoid suspicion. Despite the horror she was living in, Suzanne, or Sharon as she was known, was incredibly intelligent and ambitious. She excelled in school and even won a full scholarship to Georgia Tech to study aerospace engineering. But she never got to follow her dreams. The man who had stolen her life made sure she would never escape. Instead of letting her go to college, Floyd forced her into a life of crime and exploitation. By the late 1980s, he had relocated with her to various states, making her work as an exotic dancer. He controlled her completely, making sure she could never run away. During this time, Sharon became pregnant and gave birth to a son named Michael Hughes. The identity of Michael's biological father remains uncertain, but what is known is that Franklin Delano Floyd claimed the boy as his own. In 1990, Sharon Marshall was living under yet another identity. This time, she was known as Tanya Hughes. She was married to a man named Clarence Hughes, though it is believed this marriage was arranged by Floyd to further cover his tracks. On April 30th, 1990, Tanya was found gravely injured on the side of a highway in Oklahoma City. She had been hit by a car in what initially appeared to be a tragic accident. However, the circumstances surrounding her death raised many questions. Doctors quickly realized that she had suffered severe injuries before the accident, injuries that suggested she had been beaten. Witnesses also reported seeing Franklin Delano Floyd acting suspiciously near the scene. 2 days later, Tanya Hughes, who was actually Suzanne Marie Savakis, died in the hospital. She was only in her early 20s. At her funeral, Floyd showed up with their son, Michael, but something was off. He barely seemed upset about her death. Instead, he acted controlling and aggressive, trying to prevent anyone from asking too many questions. When people from the community began looking into her past, they made a chilling discovery. Tanya Hughes, the woman everyone thought they knew, did not exist. There were no official records of her before a few years prior. The real question was, who was she? Following Sharon's death, Floyd took Michael Hughes and went on the run. Eventually, the authorities caught up with him in 1994, and Michael was placed in foster care. By this time, investigators had begun piecing together the puzzle of Sharon's true identity. But before they could get answers, Floyd did something unimaginable. In September 1994, he walked into Michael's elementary school in Oklahoma with a gun. He forced the principal into a car at gunpoint, demanding that he drive him to where Michael was being kept. Once they arrived, he took Michael and vanished. The boy was never seen again. Years later, Floyd finally confessed to what happened. He admitted to murdering Michael shortly after the kidnapping, claiming that he wouldn't have been a normal child anyway due to his upbringing. It was a heartbreaking end for the little boy who had already lost so much. During their investigation, authorities discovered that Floyd was also connected to another murder. In 1989, a woman named Cheryl Nkomeso, a co-worker of Sharon's at a strip club, had gone missing. Her skeletal remains were later found near a highway in Florida. In 1995, a crucial piece of evidence linked Floyd to her death: an old briefcase containing photographs of Cheryl being brutally beaten. The evidence was undeniable. Floyd was charged with her murder and sentenced to death. It wasn't until years later that DNA testing officially confirmed that Sharon Marshall was actually Suzanne Marie Savakis, the little girl who had been stolen decades earlier. Franklin Delano Floyd remained on death row in Florida for years until he died of natural causes in January 2023. This case is one of the most disturbing and heartbreaking true crime stories of all time. A little girl was stolen from her family, forced to live under false identities, manipulated, and abused for her entire life. Even after her death, it took decades for the truth to come to light. And what makes it even more terrifying, cases like this still happen today. If you found this story disturbing, make sure to subscribe to Haunted World for more cases like this. And remember, sometimes the scariest stories aren't the ones from horror movies. They're the ones that actually happened. This case feels like suspenseful thriller but rooted in reality. 5 bodies, 5 young lives cut brutally short. A killer who didn't just murder, he played with his victims. And a college town that would never sleep soundly again. This is the story of the Gainesville Ripper. On August 24, 1990, a Friday night in Gainesville, Florida, students laughed, drank, made plans for the weekend. But in one small apartment just off campus, 2 roommates had no idea they were being watched. Sunja Larson, 18 years old, bright, ambitious, just starting her freshman year at the University of Florida. Christina Powell, 17, her best friend. They'd only lived together for a few weeks. They still had unpacked boxes in their rooms. They never saw him coming. The killer slipped in through the sliding glass door. No forced entry, no struggle, just silence. And then, the unthinkable. When police arrived the next morning, they found a scene so horrific, even seasoned detectives froze. The girls weren't just killed. They were posed, displayed, as if the killer wanted them to be seen. And the worst part? He wasn't done. 3 days later, another apartment, another pair of students. Tracy Poles, 23, Manuel Tabawada, 23, friends, just gone. The same method, the same brutality, the same staging. This wasn't just murder. This was a performance. And the audience? Everyone who dared to look. The city erupted in terror. Students fled campus. Parents demanded answers. And the police, they had nothing. No suspects, no motive, just 5 bodies, and a killer who vanished into the night. But then, a break in the case. His name was Danny Rolling, 35 years old, a drifter, a thief, a man with a lifetime of violence trailing behind him. Had been in and out of jail for years. Armed robbery, assault. But this was different. This was something darker, something inhuman. In his own words, he later described the killings as taking their souls. He didn't just want them dead. He wanted them remembered. But pride would be his downfall. When police finally caught him after a botched robbery in neighboring Ocala, they didn't know they had the Gainesville Ripper. Not at first, but the evidence, the DNA, the chilling confessions, it all pointed to one man. Danny Rolling stood trial in 1994. He showed no remorse, no fear, only satisfaction. Judge verdict death by injection. And on October 25, 2006, the state of Florida made sure he never killed again. 5 innocent lives, a killer who walked among them, and a question that still lingers in the humid Florida air. Was Danny Rolling truly alone that summer? Or was there something, or someone, else lurking in the shadows? The case is closed. But the fear. Sunday evening in Sarasota, Florida. 11-year-old Carly Brucia had spent the day with a friend and was on her way home, just a short walk. Nothing out of the ordinary, but someone was watching. And then it happened. A security camera at a car wash captured the last few moments of Carly's freedom. A grainy black and white image, a man in a uniform, approaching, speaking to her, reaching out. And then, she was gone. This is the story of a crime that shook the nation. A case that left an indelible mark on the justice system, forcing us to ask the terrifying question: how many monsters walk among us, unnoticed? February 1st, 2004. Sarasota, Florida. It was a warm evening, a typical Florida sunset casting a golden glow over the streets. Carly Brucia, a bright and energetic 11-year-old girl, was walking home from a friend's house. The journey was short. She had done it many times before, but on this night, something felt different. Unbeknownst to Carly, someone was waiting for her. Someone who had no intention of letting her make it home. Security footage from a nearby car wash would later reveal the horrifying truth. A man, dressed in what appeared to be a uniform, approached Carly as she walked past. He spoke to her, calm, authoritative. Perhaps he pretended to be a police officer, or maybe he simply demanded she follow him. Whatever he said, it worked. Carly hesitated, looked around, then, helplessly, she obeyed. The man took her arm, led her away, and they vanished into the night. What happened next was a nightmare beyond imagination. When Carly didn't come home, her family immediately knew something was wrong. Her mother, Susan Shorpen, called friends, neighbors, anyone who might have seen her daughter. But no one had. Panic set in. The police were contacted. Officers arrived quickly, knowing that every second was crucial in a missing child case. They scoured the neighborhood, knocking on doors, asking questions. And then, they found it. The car wash surveillance tape. What they saw on that grainy black and white screen would haunt them forever. There she was, Carly, walking alone. Then, a man, tall, stocky, wearing a uniform, stepping into the frame. He reached for her, and just like that, she was gone. The video sent shockwaves across the country. It aired on every major news channel. America watched in horror as the final moments of Carly's freedom played out on their screens. Who was this man? The FBI joined the search, working alongside local police. The pressure was on. A tip line was flooded with calls. The blurry image of the man in uniform, his face barely visible, was analyzed, enhanced, and spread across the media. And then, a name emerged: Joseph Smith, a man with a past, a criminal record filled with drug charges, violence, and failed attempts at rehabilitation. A man who should have been behind bars, but wasn't. Smith was no stranger to law enforcement. A drifter, a drug addict, his rap sheet stretched back years. But somehow, despite numerous arrests, he had always managed to slip through the cracks. When officers tracked him down, he denied everything. But the evidence was mounting. Witnesses placed him near the scene. His history of violence made him an obvious suspect. And then a chilling discovery. Carly's lifeless body was found behind a church, discarded like trash, left in the dirt. The nation's worst fears were confirmed. Carly Brucia was gone. Joseph Smith stood trial, facing the full weight of his crimes. The evidence was overwhelming. The surveillance footage, the DNA, the damning testimony. The jury deliberated. The verdict was swift. Guilty. A death sentence was handed down. But for Carly's family, there was no justice, only an unbearable emptiness where their daughter once was. Years passed. Appeals were filed. Smith remained on death row, a hollow shell of a man. And then, in 2022, fate decided his punishment. Joseph Smith died in prison, not by execution, but by illness, a fate far kinder than what he had given Carly. Carly Brucia's story is more than just a tragic headline. It's a warning, a reminder that predators walk among us, hidden in plain sight, that the justice system sometimes fails to keep them behind bars. Carly's face, frozen in that grainy surveillance footage, is an image burned into history, a haunting reminder of innocence stolen. We tell these stories not to instill fear, but to ensure that the past is never forgotten. Because the monsters, they're still out there, and they're waiting. Dorian passed away in 1993. Her friends began sorting through her belongings. But what they found in her closet wasn't just costumes or memories. It was a mummified body hidden for decades. A man, a mystery, a crime. Who was he? Why was he there? And what really happened behind Dorian Corey's closed doors? Was it self-defense, revenge, or something even more sinister? Tonight, we dive into the enigmatic life and death of Dorian Corey, a story of glamour, secrets, and a suitcase that held more than just bones. This is a mystery that refuses to stay buried. Dorian Corey was born in 1937, in a world that offered little acceptance for someone like her. A black transgender woman with dreams bigger than the confines of her time. But Dorian was a fighter. She found her home in the drag ballroom scene, a vibrant underground world where LGBTQ+ individuals could express themselves freely, compete for trophies, and find family in a society that often rejected them. The ball is where you can be whoever you want to be. It's where you can shine, even if the world outside tries to dim your light. Dorian wasn't just a performer. She was a mentor. Younger queens looked up to her for her wisdom, her talent, and her ability to navigate a world that was as dangerous as it was dazzling. But even as she inspired others, there was a side to Dorian that no one saw, a side that would only be revealed after her death. In 1993, Dorian Corey passed away from AIDS-related complications. Her friends, grieving the loss of a beloved icon, began the somber task of clearing out her apartment. Among the sequined gowns, feathered headdresses, and boxes of makeup, they found something that would change everything. A suitcase tucked away in the back of her closet. Inside the suitcase was a mummified body, preserved by the dry, cool conditions of the apartment. The body was later identified as Robert Worley, a man who had disappeared in the 1960s. Worley had a criminal record, with charges ranging from theft to assault, and was known to be violent. The discovery raised more questions than answers. How did Worley end up in Dorian's closet? What was their connection? And why had Dorian kept the body hidden for so long? The case of Dorian Corey and the mummified body has sparked countless theories. Some believe that Worley was an abusive partner or someone who posed a threat to Dorian, and that she killed him in self-defense. Others speculate that Worley may have tried to rob or harm her, leading to a violent confrontation. There are even whispers that Dorian may have been involved in a deeper, more sinister plot, though there is no evidence to support this. What is clear is that Dorian lived in a time and place where violence against transgender women, especially black transgender women, was all too common. If Worley had threatened her, she may have felt that she had no choice but to protect herself. Forensic analysis of the body revealed that Robert Worley had been shot in the head, likely in the 1960s. The conditions in Dorian's closet, cool, dry, and dark, had naturally mummified the body, preserving it for decades. Investigators found no evidence linking Dorian to Worley's death, and with both of them gone, the case was never solved. For years, that suitcase sat in her closet, a secret, a burden, a reminder. What was going through her mind every time she passed it? Did she ever think about coming clean? Or was the truth too dangerous to reveal? Dorian Corey's legacy is a complex one. To the world, she was a trailblazer, a talented performer who paved the way for future generations of drag artists. Her wisdom and wit continue to inspire, and her presence in Paris is burning ensures that she will never be forgotten. But the discovery of the mummified body adds a darker layer to her story, forcing us to confront the possibility that even our heroes have secrets. In the end, all that's left are the questions, the whispers, the mystery, and the haunting truth that some secrets are never meant to be uncovered. She was young, full of dreams, and far from home, but someone was watching her every move, and one day, she disappeared. What happened next became one of the most disturbing stories the world has ever known. Lindsay Hawker was born on May 5, 1984, in the town of Ruislip in London, England. She was known for her vivacious and warm personality. In 2006, Lindsay decided to embark on a new adventure and moved to Japan to teach English. Inspired by her passion for teaching and love for travel in Japan, Lindsay quickly adapted to her new life, building friendships and enjoying the rich cultural experiences the country offered. She was noted for her dedication to her students and enthusiasm in the classroom. Her friends remembered her warmth and kindness, painting a picture of a vibrant and promising young woman with a bright future. On March 24, 2007, Lindsay met Tatsuya Ichihashi at a bar in Tokyo, where she was enjoying a night out with a few friends. Ichihashi was charming, appearing friendly and appealing. They engaged in conversation, and despite warning signs, Lindsay decided to go to his apartment after the decision would prove fateful. Reports later suggested that Ichihashi was lying about his age and even his background, further demonstrating how easily someone can be deceived. Masking true intentions behind a facade of charm, friends began to grow concerned when Lindsay did not return home the following day. She was expected to attend a gathering with friends but never showed up. Panic set in when her friends reported her disappearance to the police. The initial response included reviewing security footage from the area, which revealed Lindsay leaving the bar with Ichihashi days past. The local community, alongside the authorities, intensified their search efforts. Missing posters featuring Lindsay's face were plastered across Tokyo, drawing public attention, and the investigation quickly focused on Ichihashi as the prime suspect. Police discovered that he had gone into hiding after Lindsay's disappearance. His actions in the following days included suspicious behaviors, such as avoiding contact and attempting to dispose of evidence. Lindsay's friends, family, and the local community remained hopeful yet increasingly anxious. The media spotlight intensified as the search operations ramped up, showcasing the concern of a nation that prided itself on safety and security. On March 30, 2007, a breakthrough came when authorities discovered Lindsay's body buried in a bathtub filled with concrete on a property in Ichihashi's father's home, located in Chiba Prefecture. The cause of death was determined to be asphyxiation, leading to widespread outrage, and the discovery was heartbreaking for Lindsay's loved ones, transforming public interest into a deep expression of grief. The tragedy of her violent death overshadowed the vibrancy she had brought to those around her, serving as a stark reminder of the potential shadows lurking even in safe places. With Ichihashi now officially a fugitive, an international manhunt was initiated. He made headlines as he evaded authorities for more than 2 years. His case became emblematic of the potential dangers facing women abroad and the importance of vigilance during this time. Ichihashi changed his appearance to evade capture, using various aliases and frequently moving between locations. This cat-and-mouse game captured media attention, peeling back layers from his persona and revealing a chilling reality underlining trust and deception. In 2009, Ichihashi was finally apprehended when he tried to seek medical assistance after an injury sustained during an attempted robbery. At this point, he was recognized because of the widespread media coverage and the details released about his appearance following his arrest. The trial began in 2011. It was marked by the emotional testimonies of Lindsay's friends and family, highlighting her kindness and potential future. Ichihashi's defense claimed the killing was an accident, a claim met with disdain by those who knew Lindsay. Ultimately, Ichihashi was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison, bringing some closure to Lindsay's family and friends, though the heartbreak remained. Lindsay Hocker's tragic case had profound effects, raising awareness about safety and crime against women, especially expatriates living abroad. It inspired discussions about the importance of caution and personal safety, compounding broader dialogues around violence and victim. Her case is often cited in discussions about the risks faced by travelers and foreign workers worldwide, emphasizing that vigilance is a critical need, irrespective of perceived security in one's surroundings. The memory of Lindsay Hocker lives on, not just in her family and friends, but in the lessons gleaned from her tragic story. The life and untimely death of Lindsay Hocker remind us of the fragility of life and the importance of vigilance.